Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Shaping Tomorrow on IKIM Radio. I'm Shafiq Burhanuddin, Senior Research Officer at IKIM. In this episode, we are joined once again by Dr. Fateh Hermes, who is a research associate at the Orient Institute Beirut, Lebanon, to share with us the work and the ideas of a 16th century Ottoman scholar, Kinalizade Ali Chelebi, who wrote a very prominent and famous book in the Ottoman period called The Sublime Ethics. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fateh.
Alaikum salam, Shafiq. Thanks again for this invitation.
It's our honor to have someone like you to be sharing some valuable knowledge about a great figure in Muslim civilization. Before we proceed, allow me to once again to introduce you to our listeners. Fateh Hermes joined the Orient Institute Beirut in 2018 and is responsible for the in-house production of Bibliotheca Islamica. He received a doctorate from the University of Erfurt, Germany, with a thesis entitled Ottoman Economic Thinking Before the 19th Century, which has been published as a book and is in the IKIM Library's possession. And I have it here this time to show it on the Facebook video. There you go. Published by Routledge, a very beautiful and valuable book, I must add. Dr. Fateh holds an MA in Economic History from Marmara University and a BA in Economics from Boğaziçi University, both in Istanbul. Before joining the Orient Institute Beirut, he worked as a research assistant for the chair of History of West Asia at the University of Erfurt, and most recently as postdoctoral associate at the Center for Islamic Theology, University of Tübingen in Germany. His main research interest is pre-modern Islamic intellectual history, with a particular focus on intellectual endeavors in Ottoman lands. His work is also concerned with economic, social, religious, and literary writing, as well as with Sufi thought. His research at the current institute where he's based focuses on a famous book of ethics, Akhlaq al-La'i, written in Damascus by the Ottoman scholar Kinalizade Ali Chelebi, whom we'll be learning more today through Dr. Fateh, which will be our second episode on this subject. And in the previous episode, which you could find on IKIM FM's Facebook page, he has shared with us a great deal about the biography, about the life, the works, and the background of this great Ottoman scholar that we are learning from as well in this episode. So please, Dr. Fateh, we would like to learn more about this figure from you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Shafiq. As you also summarized, in the first session, we rather talked about Kinalizade's biography and the background of the book. Now, in this second session, I would like to enter into the content of the book and let us discuss what is the book all about. I would like to start with the first slide that I sent you. It's about Hikmah. No, the first one.
Yes, we will change it to the first one. Okay.
Yeah, Hikmah. Why is Hikmah important? Because Hikmah is actually of two kinds, Hikmah Nazariya and Hikmah Amaliya. Hikmah Nazariya is composed of ilahiyat, theology, riyaziyat, mathematics, and tabiyat, natural sciences. And Hikmah Amaliya is akhlaq, an individual realm, ilmi tedbiri menzil, family realm, and ilmi tedbiri medine, society realm. So what we call Hikmah Amaliya, the practical wisdom, is actually nothing else than ethics. So it's all about Hikmah. And when we say ethics, it's all about Hikmah and acquiring Hikmah. Therefore, it's important what is Hikmah at all for ethics scholars. Hikmah is defined in Kinalizade's book as to know the objects, the things, al-ashya, as they really are. However, with the restriction of the capabilities of human beings. Now, what does this definition mean? To know the things. Here, things means everything. Yani concrete or abstract things, every existing thing, every created thing in the universe. To know, which means Hikmah is to know everything. But to know them in what manner? to know them as they really are. This implies that we normally do not perceive things as they really are. We perceive things, al-ashya, in a different fashion than as they really are, in an illusionary fashion. So in order to be able to go beyond this illusion and to know the things as they really are, one needs to acquire hikmah. You know, many times in Quran, when God speaks about prophets, He says, وَأَعْطَيْنَاهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and we gave to this prophet kitab, book, and hikmah. So hikmah is something given by God. I mean, you cannot really acquire it by your own endeavor, but it needs to be given by God. But you can do something to acquire hikmah still. You can prepare yourself, which occurs via purifying the soul. I mean, God gives hikmah only to pure souls, not dirty souls.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can do is to prepare yourself to be able to acquire hikmah. But at the end, God gives it or gives it not. So this is a special kind of knowledge, as you know. It's not information. I mean, hikmah is not information. It's a notion. It's a special kind of knowledge which makes you able to look behind what is seen. I mean, you see what is unseen. I mean, you try to see, or you become able to see what is unseen. And the only way, as I said, to acquire this ability is purifying soul. Tezkiyatun nefs is called in the ethics literature. And the ethics is all about this, actually. Purifying soul from vices and acquiring virtues. It's all about this. Now, let us look how Kinalizade suggests that one can acquire this ability and this status, or this kind of knowledge, hikmah. Can we proceed with the next slide? Yes. Ethics is all about soul, as I said, and purifying soul. Therefore, if it's all about soul, an essential analysis of soul is necessary at the beginning. And at the very beginning, Kinalizade does this, and all other ethics scholars, Jalaluddin Devani, Nasiruddin Tusi, at the beginning of their book, they start with an analysis of soul. What is soul at all? When we say soul in Arabic, we mean the concept nefs. I mean, it's about nefs.
Yes.
So they speak on three kind of souls. It's vegetative soul, is also called bestial soul, animal soul, also called savage soul, and human soul, also called angelic soul. Can we proceed?
Sure.
Now, these souls have also faculties. There are 4 faculties for the vegetative soul. The nutritive faculty, augmentative faculty, faculty of generation, and faculty of shaping. These are the powers or faculties of vegetative soul. Vegetative soul, as it's understood from its name, can be found in plants. So plants can take their food from sun, from soil, from water, etc., and they can produce new generations. I mean, the main two functions of vegetative soul are these two: to be able to acquire food, nutritive faculty, and to produce later generations. So, okay, we can proceed with the next slide.
Sure.
And when we come to the animal soul, of course, each soul is broader than the previous one. So it includes the faculties of the previous one. So animal soul includes the faculties of the vegetative soul plus has these two faculties. And additional to the faculties of vegetative soul, animal soul has also these two faculties, which are faculty of organic perception and faculty of voluntary motion. So plants cannot move, but animals can move. And this is because of their soul. And they can also perceive. I mean, if there is a danger, for example, they can see. Plants cannot see. They can see and try to run away or counterattack. They can do something. This is because of the faculties of their soul. And faculty of organic perception, the first faculty of animal soul, has also two kinds, with external senses and internal senses. So the next slide, please.
Sure.
Yes, what we call external senses are the five senses, actually: touch, smell, taste, hearing, and sight. These are external senses. And we have, our animals have also internal senses: common sense, fantasy, estimation, memory, and reflection. So an animal can have a memory, can remember you, for example, if sees you again, etc. Yeah, these are the faculties, the subdivisions of the first faculty of animal soul, and we can proceed. Yeah, and the second one, faculty of voluntary motion, has also two kinds: through appetitive faculty or through irascible faculty. Okay, we will talk about these two a little bit later. We can proceed for the time being.
Right.
And when we come to the human soul, as I said, human soul includes the faculties of animal soul and vegetative soul also, and has additionally these two faculties which animals and plants do not have. These faculties are faculty of reasoning and faculty of practicing. So animals do not have faculty of reasoning. They can see and remember, etc., but they cannot have reasoning. And faculty of reasoning is also of two kinds, from the perspective of theoretical wisdom, hikmah nazariya, and from the perspective of practical wisdom, hikmah amaliya. And we can proceed with the next slide. So at the end, if you combine the faculty, if you include also the faculties from vegetative and animal soul, because human soul includes these faculties too, at the end, human soul has four major faculties. These are appetitive faculty, قوة شهوية. In this faculty, human soul is common with plants and animals. So plants, as I said earlier, plants and animals have also shahwa, appetitive faculty. Shahwa and appetitive faculty means actually to be able to attract desired objects to himself or herself. This is appetitive faculty. It has various kinds, but especially two of them are more essential. These are called by Ghazali shahwatul mida ve shahwatul faraj. So the first shahwa, yani appetitive faculty, is related with food or acquiring food, and the next one is producing generations, later generations, sexual intercourse. So these are more essential than other kinds of appetitive faculty or appearances of appetitive faculty, but there are many other kinds of it. And the second faculty of human soul is irascible faculty, and in this faculty, human beings are common with animals. قوة غضبية. Irascible faculty or قوة غضبية means is the opposite of appetitive faculty, is the power of expelling undesired objects. So you make them not near to you. This is the faculty of, this is the irascible faculty. And plants do not have this. Only animals and human beings have this irascible faculty. And the third one, rational faculty. Human beings are common in this faculty with angels, because angels can also angels have also intellect. They can also think and make conclusions, etc. In this faculty, human beings are common with angels. And the last one is practical faculty, to be able to apply all of this. Can we proceed with the next one?
Sure.
So if we talk about the first three of these faculties, appetitive faculty, irascible faculty, and reasoning, faculty of reasoning, these three faculties have two extremes. These are called ifrat and tefrit.
Yes.
And just a second. Yeah, these are called ifrat and tefrit. And for example, appetitive faculty, quwwa shahawiyya, the ifrat of it is greed, fujur, and the tefrit is sluggishness of appetite. Ifrat means going to the one extreme and to have it more than necessary, and tefrit is the other extreme, to abstain from it in an exaggerated way. These are two extremes.
Defect and excess of a thing.
Yes. And the virtue lies in the middle. I mean, both extremes are vices, and virtue lies exactly in the middle of these two vices, which is ifat. I mean, in concerning with the appetitive faculty, the virtue of this faculty is ifat, the middle point of these two extremes.
I think in English they sometimes translate it as temperance.
Yes, temperance or continence. Yes. And the second faculty, irascible faculty, has also two extremes. Then the ifrat, or too much of it, is foolhardiness, and the tefrit of it is cowardice. And the middle point, which is virtue, is courage. I mean, if you are courage is exactly the middle point of these two extremes, foolhardiness and cowardice. So if we can proceed.
Sure.
And the third one, rational faculty, has also two extremes. The ifrat of it is too much of it is ingenuity, and tefrit is foolishness. So the middle point between these two extremes is wisdom, hikmah.
Yes.
And as for the fourth faculty, practical faculty of the human soul, there are two interpretations about this fourth faculty. One interpretation says that it has also two extremes, ifrat and tefrit. The ifrat of it is, and too much of it is injustice, and tefrit is suffering of wrong, and justice is the middle point. But there is a second interpretation in Kinalizade's book too. He gives both interpretations. If we proceed with the next slide.
Yes.
The second interpretation says that justice does not have two extremes, but it has only one opposite, which is injustice. And so justice in this second interpretation is not only one of the virtues, but it includes all of the virtues. So according to this, if any person follows the middle point between these two extremes with regard to other three faculties of soul, then this person is automatically a just person. And per definition, this person is a just person. Because justice is defined as, in Arabic, wadu shay'i fi makanihi, and putting something in its proper place, in its correct place. And this shay, thing, is anything. I mean, it's not only concrete things, but also abstract things like generosity, anger, all of these things. If you put everything in its proper place, then you are a just person. This is the definition of justice. And injustice, zulm, is just the opposite. وضع الشيء في غير مكانه, putting something on a wrong place. And if you put something, this something can be anything. For example, your sleep. If you sleep too much or too little, you are doing an injustice because you are putting your sleep in a wrong place. I mean, or eating or anything, and if you are eating too much, or if you are concentrating too much on earning money and nothing else, this is also injustice. You are doing injustice to yourself.
Dr. Fateh, did Kinalizade in his kitab mention about this definition, or it's understood that this is the definition of justice?
It's mentioned. It's not only mentioned in Kinalizade's book. You can find also in Rumi's Mesnevi, exactly with this verse. I'm while the Shayfi Mekanihi, and putting something in its correct place. Kinalizade mentions this, and you can find it in many other classical books. It's very commonly accepted definition of justice in classical books. You can find exactly this definition, and you can find also in Mesnevi. I read it also in Rumi's Mesnevi, Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi's Mesnevi.
MashaAllah. Can I also seek your clarification when scholars like Kinalizade started the discussion on his book on ethics with the soul, and then proceeding that with virtues? I think this is very important because I think in the pre-modern world, in the times of the Muslim civilization of the past, they understood that understanding the realities of the soul will enable you to achieve that virtue in character. Yes, Dr. Fateh, can you clarify that? Because
Yes.
I think when we speak of because that today we don't see that discussion in ethics. It's like separated, right? Everything is taken away from a lot of the more metaphysical or psychological discussions like this in the discussions of ethics. Dr. Fateh.
Yeah, as I said in the first session, there is a huge metaphysics behind this, and the main obstacle is that in modernity, in our modern science, and modern science is based on denial of metaphysics. So we need a revival. Actually, in today we need really a revival, because for today's minds and for the people of modernity, it's also in the first reading not easy even to understand what he's talking about, because our minds are coded in a different way nowadays. So these such texts needs really revival. Actually, they cannot be understood directly usually, and needs interpretation in today's world. This is. We were talking about justice, which is most important thing in whole book, and justice is actually a balance. I mean, to have a balanced way of life. It's about balance, because we can. Kinalizade mentions also one hadith to support his argument here. خير الأمور أوسطها. The best thing is to follow the middle path. So extremes are easy, actually. To follow extremes, which are vices, are easy. You can follow more consistently one of the extremes, ifrat or tefrit. But to follow the middle path is more difficult. Because it's not easy to find it. What is the middle path? But it is actually the path of virtue and justice, the middle path. Yes, can we proceed to the next slide, please?
Sure, Doctor.
Okay. No, not this one. We can remain with the previous one. Okay, let me talk about why it is difficult to follow this middle path. Two things make it too difficult, actually. The first thing is that we talked about this two extremes, and we said that virtue is in the middle of these two extremes. Now, the first difficulty is that the distance between these two extremes is not measurable.
Right.
I mean, you cannot say, okay, from Ifrat to Tefrit is 100 centimeters and 50 centimeters is here. I follow this line. You cannot say. I mean, it's not measurable. This is also something which is not compatible with modern science. For modern science, you need to produce everything in digits, in countable measures. This is not something measurable at all. I mean, this cannot be a subject of modern science. Right. Is not measurable. So this is the first difficulty. Is not measurable. You have to feel it. You have to develop a true feeling to find these middle points between these two extremes. And the virtues are actually not only these three: Iffet, Shajaat, and Hikmat, yani, temperance, courage, and wisdom. They have many other sub virtues. So these virtues, sub virtues, have also two extremes, like generosity. I mean, we didn't count generosity in these three cardinal virtues. And there are many other virtues. So with regard to all of these cardinal virtues and their sub virtues, if someone follows the middle path, always the middle path, and does not go to extremes, then this person becomes a just person, which is the way of prophets, actually. And the ethics scholar says, in practice, it's so difficult to remain always in this middle path and not to deviate from the middle path is almost impossible. I mean, and they suggest, and Kinalizade suggests, one should try is at least to limit the deviations. I mean, to limit the deviations within certain range and do not go too much to one of the extremes, at least to limit it. And this, the collection of these middle points is a narrow line. I mean, like the Sirat on Jahannam. I mean, they describe it like this, and both sides of it is hell. I mean, if you deviate from this middle path, which is a very narrow line, both sides you fall into Jahannam. I mean, picture they depicted like this. So this is the first difficulty. To finding the middle points is not easy because you cannot really measure it and say, okay, this is the middle point. And what Kinalizade suggests to be able and to develop a feeling about finding these middle points is to read stories. For example, for courage, he suggests to read Firdausi's Shahnameh. Is a book about courageous people, courageous sultans in the past, etc. Shahnameh. And he suggests, for example, to read this book. I'm reading stories like Rumi's Mesnevi or Attar or all of these things. Through reading these nice stories, and you can
teaches moral lessons, and ethical.
Yes, exactly. You feel it. I mean, within time, Kinalizade says, you feel what is the right action in this specific case now to do. And the more you apply your knowledge from these from such sources, your feeling become even more sharpened. And the more your feeling or knowledge, hikmah, becomes more sharpened, and you apply even better. So it goes on like this. This is the solution that Kinalizade suggests for this.
If I can recap a bit, Dr. Fateh. So Kinalizade is suggesting, in order to achieve virtue, I think aside from his own book, Sublime Ethics, it's very important to read stories through great literatures that imparts moral lessons, like Shahnameh, which is a great Persian literature, as well as you mentioned, Masnavi, which is the great work of Jalaluddin Rumi.
Yeah.
So I suppose these are very important elements to shape a character of the Muslim in
Yes.
those times as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he himself quotes very often Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, Hafız Şirazi, Feridüddin Attar, Şeyh Senai, Gujduvani. I mean, he very often quotes them. And his suggestion is also to read more of these of such sources, such stories, because most of the Quran is also about stories. I mean, at least one third, one fourth of it is telling human beings stories about the previous prophets and previous people, how what they do and what mistakes they do, so that we learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the method actually Kinalizade suggests to be able to find this middle points, which is virtue. Yeah, this is the first difficulty. Second difficulty is that even if we suppose that you found this middle point, these middle points are unfortunately not static, but they are dynamic, which means they are changing all the time.
Yes.
They are not static. So, for example, if you are when you are young, an action which may be counted as a courageous action may not be the same when you are old, or when you are single. An action of generosity may not be anymore generosity, or the opposite. I mean, if you have now a family and children, and if you now donate less, for example, you may be more generous than when you were single. Okay. So all of these things, I mean, although you do the same action in a point of time of your life, this action may be virtue. In another point of your life, this action may be vice. The same action. I mean, I mean, it depends all in your conditions. I mean, you have to watch always your conditions now. What are your conditions now? And yes, in this specific condition now, what is
your responsibility towards others as well, towards
those
who are.
Yes, exactly. So what is now in your condition, the virtuous action, and what is vice? You have to always watch these conditions. This is the second difficulty.
Right.
Now, from this, we can proceed to the circle of justice after discussing these difficulties. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a depiction of the famous circle of justice from Kinalizade's book. I mean, as I said, justice is the most central concept in the whole book of Kinalizade. Yes. And after discussing justice, Kinalizade discusses one further concept, which he doesn't invent, of course. This circle of justice is a very ancient idea, even goes before Islam. Ibn Khaldun says it has two roots, one Sasanian, a Persian root, and one Greek root. Right. But Kinalizade put it in nice aesthetic way, also in Turkish here. And he constructed 8 sentences, and it starts with justice. Adildir mucibi salahi cihan. At the bottom, it starts at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And 8 sentences follow each other, and the last word of each sentence is the first word of the next one. So also aesthetically, he builds a circle. Yes. We can see this in English translation in the next slide.
Sure.
Yeah, these 8 sentences or arguments are: it is justice that maintains peace in the world. The world is a garden and its fence is state. The order of the state is religious law, Sharia. There is no better guardian for religious law than authority. Authority cannot be maintained without an army. An army cannot be instituted without wealth. Wealth cannot be obtained except through the producing subjects. The subjects serve the just ruler obediently. So it starts with justice, as you see. This is why it's called the circle, and ends also with justice. So in this way, the circle closes. I mean, you can finish drawing a circle only when you reach the starting point. So this is, I mean, this circle, and in this circle, which in summary, which means that if a sultan wants to apply justice, he needs power to do this, which is army. I mean, without army, his word would not be efficient. I mean, no one would care what the sultan says. So he needs an army. I mean, before army, even he needs a Sharia and a law, and in order to apply law, Sharia, he needs an army. Otherwise, his words wouldn't be efficient. And if he applies the law, Sharia, with a powerful army, security forces, then people are engaged with their works only, and they produce. And in this way, the state can collect its taxes properly and further finance the army, because the army needs money at the end. I mean, in order that the Sultan may have a strong army, he has to give their salaries. So the salaries come from the subjects. If they produce well, they can also pay taxes, and through these taxes, the Sultan can finance his army. So it's a circle in such manner. Yeah. Yes. As a summary, I mean, let me summarize a little bit. Human being consists of two components, body and soul. And as we said in the first session also, for the sicknesses of body is medicine responsible, and soul also may become sick, and for these sicknesses akhlaq is responsible. And soul goes through different worlds, as we said, and in this world, which is the third world, is connected, is in this body that we accept, and this body, according to Rumi, is like a womb in which soul takes its shape for the next world. I mean, just like in the wombs of our mothers, we take a form which is suitable, a body which is suitable for this world, and this body becomes for the soul, according to Rumi, a womb, like a womb. And when we die, actually we are born, and we are born from this womb to another world. I mean, the soul goes through 5 worlds, as we discussed in the previous session. So this is my summary of the two sessions about Kinalizade.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much, Dr. Fateh Hermes. You have basically done a very incredible task of sharing a great treasure in from the Ottoman period, a great treasure from the Muslim civilization, which is the book of Sublime Ethics by Kinalizade Ali Chelebi, a scholar of the 16th century. Basically, today you have shared a great deal. I'm sure there are much more to be shared, but today you shared many things about the discussions in this book on Sublime Ethics. You shared with us about the discussion, the analysis of the soul, about how about the virtues, about the two extremes that one shouldn't deviate towards. And I really enjoyed many things that you shared about the meaning of justice, and also especially the advice or the recommendation of Kinalizade in terms of developing that virtue by reading stories, reading the great literatures from the Muslim civilization. And I think these are still very relevant today. We can still applicable today. We can still read this ourselves. If it's not in the system of our education system, we can do it ourselves. A lot of this has been translated. The great literatures that you mentioned, Dr. Fateh.
Yeah.
And finally, you concluded with the circle of justice, which is, I suppose, the culmination of the ethics. If you were to extend it to a social
Yeah.
political level at a
Exactly.
bigger context.
Yeah.
So yes, Dr. Fatih, we wish that we could have you some more to learn more about this great treasure and this wisdom, basically. But what you have shared with us, we are very we feel very honored, and we're very thankful for the time that you've made to be with us all the way from Lebanon to share your knowledge. And we ask Allah to bless you for your efforts and to revive this great wisdom of the Muslim civilization, Dr. Fatih.
It was a pleasure for me. Thank you, Shafiq.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been on Shaping Tomorrow with our special guest from Lebanon, based in Lebanon. He's originally from Turkey, Dr. Fatih Ermis, to share with us about the Ottoman scholar of the 16th century by the name of Kinalizade Ali Chelebi, specifically on his prominent work called The Sublime Ethics. With that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.